We've had a great presentation today and looking at how we can embrace the future, different aspects, different features. And I'm now going to add 8 simple steps that can help you make your career a bit more future-proof. So really to help you embrace the future. And the 8 steps are all on this page as a summary, and I'm just going to go through them quickly one at a time. Staying up to date. It should be super obvious, but actually most of us do not stay up to date unless we make an effort. So one of the things I would say is pick one key source. This links really closely with what Sue York has just been telling you. Pick one source as your main method of staying up to date, and everything else is an extra. So you could follow NewMR. That's deep, but actually it's probably a little bit narrow. You could follow the Green Book blog. Deep and wide, but there's lots of it. It's hard work if you're going to follow the updates every day, the newsletters and the webinars, but it's certainly a really good option. Will keep you very up to date. Bob Lederer, 4 days a week, produces a 5-minute video, an interview, the top news from the industry, some of the top speakers in the industry. Yes, it's relatively shallow, but it's a really small time commitment. And I'm using shallow here in the sense of not that it's not interesting, but it doesn't go into massive depth. But it's an audio. You can listen to that while you carry on doing your other work. I'm sure every one of us could find 5 minutes a day to listen to something that's going to keep them up to date. Quirks, again, deep and wide, but there's lots and lots of it. MR Web or Research Live, these are relatively shallow. They're small pieces, but it's really wide. So you're going to see a lot of what's going on. Or as Sue has just been talking about, in Twitter, you could follow the #NewMR tag. You could follow the #MRX. Either of those will give you a lot of exposure to what is happening out there in the research world. And you will see things of interest and you follow those up, and that will keep you up to date. You have to develop new skills. One of the most deadly things that can happen is if you just keep getting better and better at the same thing. That is not a good way of future-proofing your career. We should all expect to work for probably 10 or more companies throughout our working life. We are going to be doing different things. I used to be really good at doing fax surveys at one time. We would fax out the survey and they would send them back. We used to do disk by mail. We'd post somebody a floppy disk and they'd do the survey on it and send it back. You've got to expect some of your skills to become redundant. So what I would say is each year, try to learn one new skill. And really, there is a really wide variety of possible skills out there. Here are just some of them. You might decide after listening to Martina a few minutes ago that you want to take on board semiotics, or you might want to do social media research after listening to Gail. Or you might want to go into some really tough analytics and take into things like SPSS or R or SAS or Hadoop if you want to get into big data. Just pick something each year and try to read up on it, look at some online video courses, attend some webinars. If you're lucky enough to be able to go to a course, then do that too. Build a profile. So Sue has talked about building your social media profile, but really you need to do that throughout everybody who might employ you, who might promote you, who might give your company business, who might be responsible for your next salary increase, who might be responsible for deciding whether you go to a conference or not. So what else is in that profile? Volunteer for internal projects. It's a great way to be known. So that could be the company social function. It could be some initiative the company is running. The industry frequently calls out for volunteers to look into different topics. Get in the habit of volunteering. You obviously have to control your time, but yes, volunteering. Spend time talking to clients and colleagues, especially if from other offices. So if somebody visits your office, spend time talking to them. If you go to an event and there's somebody you do business there, just have a chat with them. Build your awareness with those people. Write and produce things. So consider blogging, probably as a guest blogger to somebody else's. And lots of the sites, if you contact Green Book blog with an article you've written and said, would you like to publish this? If it's any good, they will publish it. Lots of other places will too. You could be tweeting. You could be putting it up in some of the Facebook groups like Market Research Rocks, lots and lots of places. You could be writing things with inside your company. And when you do, add your name to it. There is really no point in terms of building your profile if you don't attach your name to these things. When you receive praise, if a client sends an email to you saying that was a great piece of work, forward it to relevant others, to your boss, your boss's boss, the manager of the account. It probably sounds a little bit deliberate and a little bit trite, but frankly, they will never get to hear unless you share that information. A lot of people around think, I will do good work, and then somebody will notice it. Frankly, most people are simply too busy to notice. So you just need to give them a little bit of help. Thank people. And please only do it when you mean it. But when people do something, put a thank you up. And that thank you can be in social media. It can be a letter around your company. It can be on the notice board. If you get the chance to attend events, speak at events. Ask questions. If you don't get the chance to speak at an event, put your hand up in the audience, ask a carefully thought through question, and attach your name and organization to that question. Just build that profile all the time. You need to develop a hinterland. So good journalists, leaders, politicians, and researchers have interests that stretch beyond their day job. A hinterland it's things away from the coast. It's the behind land. All those interesting things about you, which are not the obvious things of the day job. So think about what else you do in your life. The people you meet playing football or rugby or cricket, what does that teach you about different sorts of people? When you travel in Asia, what does it teach you about additional perspectives? What things are they doing differently there? How are they looking at things that you might not be looking at in your life? What anecdotes does learning the ukulele provide you with? And those of you who follow Annie Pettit at Love Stats will know the great use she makes of ukulele. One of the things that we want to do in market research is use storytelling to tell convincing messages that create impact for the client. You are going to have a much better fund of stories for storytelling and memes and similes and idioms and analogies if you've got a wide range of interests. So my tip here is that your future does not depend on you dropping your other interests. It depends on you harnessing your other interests. Change your job every 18 to 24 months. Now, I'm sure that some HR people here are throwing their hands up in horror. I do not mean you have to change your employer. It could be, but frequently it means you should be changing your role. You should be expanding your roles. You should be using the new skills. And I don't just mean changing your job title. Going to junior research executive to research executive to senior research executive to very senior research executive doesn't count unless you are doing more things. You need to be managing projects or managing people or handling clients or taking a wider range of projects with different tools or combining qual and quant. That's what I mean by change your job. And if you can't do that within your organization, and if you can't grow, then of course you do need to change organization. And it's a great idea if you're in your first 10 years of the insights business to spend some time on client side and some time on the agency side. Be a better presenter, storyteller. I would like a world where everybody in industry and business knows that the insights people and the market researchers are the best presenters. We're heading in that way already. If you look at people from many other disciplines present, we are actually well above the median, but I'd like to see us much, much better. Everybody can and should present better. To do that, you need to present more often. It's not enough to do courses and books and all of those things. You actually have to do it as often as you can. Get feedback. And one of the things I often do is I ask people, okay, just tell me one thing that I should keep from today's presentation and one thing that I should change. Because if you simply ask them, what should I change? Most people are reluctant to tell you anything. But when you make it balanced, one thing that I really ought to keep the same and then one thing that I should change, you get a lot more feedback. You should certainly be attending courses if you can. Ideally, they should video you as part of that process. You need to watch videos. It's horrible for most of us to watch videos, but you need to do it. Read books. Watch videos of other presenters. Follow the TED video series. Ideally, watch them in a group with friends or colleagues and then discuss what was it that worked, what didn't work, what could you learn from it, what is applicable to your business that may be not applicable to their business. So 7, improve your business skills knowledge. When I joined the research industry back in the 70s, we really did not understand that we were part of the business and that we were part of marketing. Today, I think everybody understands that we're a business function. We're about helping organizations make better decisions. And it's one of the main criticisms we get of our industry from clients and business people is that we don't understand business enough. So be thinking about, how do your clients make their money? What exactly is it within everything they do that generates the profit? What are their key business problems? What are the parameters of their options? Are they regulated by government? What role do shareholders play in the decisions they're making? What are the competitive products that they own? Who are their competitors and what are their relative competitive strategies and advantages? All of these sorts of things we should be thinking about. We should know the share price and the movement in the share price of our key clients, for example. And finally, and this is embarrassing, if you look at the billing and the advertising for this presentation, it said 7 steps. And I had a conversation, as Sue would suggest, on LinkedIn, and I put up a discussion about, what do you think of these 7 ideas? And they said, well, they're fine, Ray, but you've missed building a network. And they were absolutely right. Life is a people business, so you need to stay in touch with ex-colleagues and ex-clients. One of the reasons why you should always be nice to everybody is because you should be nice to everybody. Another reason is they may well hold power over you at some point in the future. I've had situations where somebody I've employed as a secretary or as a junior assistant has a few years later been the purchasing client who will decide whether my project goes ahead or not. So,
the webinar. So.
Okay, I can hear somebody in the background. So whenever possible, collaborate, even if you could have done it on your own. This is a really important thing in terms of networking. Even if you could have done that on that project on your own, collaborate. Offer advice and help. If you're in the habit of offering advice and help, you will get advice and help when you ask for it. Use social media to stay in touch and offer support. Ask for help again. Seek out new and interesting people. So proactively do it. And this is a really big point. So if you go to Research Club or if you go to the after conference drinks, networking does not mean talking and drinking with your own friends. It mostly means meeting and talking with new people. You should, if you go with 2 or 3 friends from work or colleagues, then you should not be talking to them during networking. You should be looking around the group and saying, are there 2 of us here from the same company? We ought to split up. It's about meeting new people. And for some people that's fun, and for some people it's hard work, but it's essential. So thank you. Learn more by following me on Twitter at Ray Poynter. So here's tip number 9. You'll notice that's almost exactly the York used. And I liked it so much, I copied it or I borrowed it. So borrow good ideas and then credit the source. So hat tip at 123. Thank you very much, and I look forward to questions.